Hey guys, I want to show off a script that I made based on this tutorial by Marco Giordano, and it's a way to rig a cartoon eye, and it's, in my opinion, the coolest way and the best way ever just to get an eye set up. Now, I recommend that you go through his tutorial so you know how everything works and what the thought process is behind the technique, but it is quite a manual process, so you have to do a lot of clicking, a lot of selecting, a lot of parroting and all that kind of stuff. And because I was using this technique in many and multiple characters, I scripted it out just to make it as fast as possible, and also because I kept making errors and kept misnaming stuff, and I hate it when stuff like that happens. So I just scripted it out, and now it's automated for like 85%, and you get the same result as you would by doing it manually. Alright, so here we have the script up and running. The first thing I'm doing here is just selecting a loop of faces around the eyes and giving them a different color. And the only reason that I'm doing that is because I always get messing up selecting the wrong vertices. So if I just give them a different color here, you can see I can just select that middle edge, the vertex on that middle edge, just to make sure that I'm always selecting the right vertices. So the first thing you need to do or want to do is you need to select all the verts on the upper eyelid. So that's what I'm doing here, just going through them and selecting them one by one. Now the script works best if you have an even or the same subdivisions on the upper eyelid as you do on the lower eyelid. It can work if there's a difference, but you probably want to make sure that you have equal amount on the upper and the lower eyelid. So I select these vertices and then I click set lid points. You can see it sets 14 points. Then the center of the eye is the joint the eye is skinned to. The head joint is, well, the head joint, and then the head mesh is the head mesh. Then you click build phase 1 and it goes through the whole setup and it builds a couple of joints on every vert, sets up some curves and connects everything together. And then you basically do the same thing for the lower eyelid. As you can see, like if you color the loops around the eyes, it is quite easy just to select the right vertex. And otherwise you might miss one or move in a row over, which isn't all that terrible. The script will still work, but it's better just to keep everything nice and clean and organized. So on the bottom eyelid I do the same thing. I set the lid points, I select the center joint or the eye joint for the center of the eye, set the head joint, set the head mesh. So the script already saw that the upper was built and I was trying to build the upper one again. That's why you get the error. So I set that to down and then select build phase 1. You get phase 1 for the lower eyelid. Then we set the head controllers or the head controller and click build phase 2. And now you can see it adds a couple of control objects around the eye, and it's actually set up at this point. I'm speeding through the right side here because it's basically the same thing. Right, so now I build the right hand side. I'm going to set up the controllers and I'm going to tick this checkbox here called flip controller orientation. And you'll see in a minute why. So when you build the controllers and your move tool is set to world space and you move to left and right, the controller follows along left and right. But if you go into object space and you move the controller to the inside of the face, for example, it moves to the inside of the face on the other side as well. Now to do the skinning, you have all these joints on the eyelids. So just select one joint, skin the edges or the verts on the loop of that joint, and just do that for every joint on the eyelid. So it's might take you a little while. I'm gonna fast forward through it. Just go through this for every joint and then weight the joints properly. Alright, so the skinning is set up now. So the only thing that we have to do is hide these joints because we don't need them anymore. And then we're going to move the controllers out of the way so we can actually use them. Also, this character has glasses, so I just want to make sure that these controllers sit outside the glasses. To do that, just go to component mode, move the controllers forward, and I'm just snapping them to the same Z location here. And then what I'm also going to do is select these in-between controllers and just make them smaller. These are driven by the 4 main controllers. And you can still manually adjust them if you want to, but I like to make them smaller and just put them in the correct location. So it's easier to select these and just easier to see what's going on. So I'm just manually moving the components here. The transform stays at the joint location, so you don't want to move the actual object. Always make sure you're in component mode and then move the components around. Just moving them back outside the classes. And then another thing that I'm going to do here is just color the controllers. And I'll link this script. It's a very, very tiny script to color the controllers. I'll link it in the description of this video so you guys can use it. But it's basically just a way to very quickly set a controller color on or set a color on a NURBS curve, on the shape node of a NURBS curve. So blue for the left hand side, red for the right hand side. So now everything is set up and you can start playing around with it. You have a blink attribute, and then the upper controllers also have a blink height attribute. So if the blink height attribute is set to 1, it's just the upper eyelid that'll do the blinking. If it's set to anything lower than 1, you can see that the lower eyelid also moves along with the blink. And now the very cool thing about this setup is if you really deform the eyelids, as I'm doing here, and you then want to make the character blink, so just setting the blink height here to 0.75. If you then make the character blink and then move the controllers around, the eyes will stay closed and everything will just keeps working. And that's just the cool part of this setup. So there we have it, that's how it works. I'll leave a link to my webpage here in the description. The script is on Gumroad, it's very reasonably priced, so if you're interested, download it, give it a try and let me know what you think.